Pro Football Weekly brings you the way we see it on the Chicago Bears. Black Monday came and went. Lovie Smith keeps his job, but then Tuesday rolls around, and Jerry Angelo, the general manager, gets fired by the organization. Are you surprised at all that they kept the coach but got rid of the GM?
You know, I'm not surprised that that's the move they ultimately made, but I am a little bit concerned that it's not the best situation going forward for the Chicago Bears. I think if you're going to make a move, don't go halfway. Don't bring in a GM that has to now be compatible with Lovie Smith and potentially you pass on the guys who would be better for the job because they don't want to come into that situation and not be able to hire their own head coach. The one restriction being placed on general manager candidates by the Bears, they have to be willing to work with Lovie Smith through the 2012 season. Not anything beyond that. So after 2012, if things don't go according to plan, Bears could be blowing it all up. The coaching staff could be thrown out the door, and you'd be bringing in a whole new staff. That's a second straight offseason of major changes. Teams that do that year after year generally don't become consistent winners, and the Bears will be falling back even further behind the Lions and Packers if that's the route that they end up going, and I think there's a serious chance that you get there.
It does seem like Lovie is set up a little bit as a lame duck head coach. If he doesn't win and make the playoffs this postseason, you figure the new general manager will want to bring in his own guy. What was it that Jerry Angelo hadn't done that the new general manager is going to need to come in and accomplish?
Well, they're going to have to do better in drafts. Jerry Angelo's track record speaks for itself. Just wasn't good enough for this team to become a consistent winner and be built for sustained success. I think you're going to have to look really closely on offense. They got Jay Cutler. That was a great move by Jerry Angelo. You need to have a franchise quarterback, but they never surrounded him with a strong enough supporting cast, in my opinion. They had success. They went all the way to the NFC Championship game the year before, but you didn't have the number one wide receiver. You didn't have a good enough offensive line. Cutler's taking a beating every season. Part of that is the Mike Martz offense, but part of that also is a talent deficiency on the offensive line. I think tight end's another place you have to look. You have to surround him with a better supporting cast, and you have to start bringing in some more younger players on defense because that core is getting up there in years.
You mentioned Mike Martz. He is also gone, whether it was resigning or being fired, whatever the case may be. He's not going to be back next year. This offense played pretty well under him. Matt Forte played very well. Why do you think ultimately he's out, and what's the effect going to be on the offense?
I think there was stubbornness in each of the 2 years at the helm for him. It took a while for him to make the adjustments that needed to be made for the offense to really hit its stride. And also, I think his ego, obviously you hear a lot of things, a lot of rumblings out of Hallis Hall that not a lot of people really liked Mike Martz, and I think that ultimately played a big role in his departure. But going forward, if you bring in an offensive coordinator that can run a similar system and maybe a little bit more easier to get along with, maybe a little bit more flexible in terms of what he does, maybe that can work. But if you bring in a guy who wants to blow up this offense, the last couple of years they've tailored the personnel to the Martz scheme. If they come in with a new guy and need to make those big changes, it can take more than a year for this offense to really get going, I think. So then you're going to have a situation, feeds back into what we talked about earlier. Are the Bears really going into a situation in 2012 where they're going to be able to play at peak performance and save Lovie Smith's job? I'm skeptical.
2012 is shaping up to be a huge season for the Chicago Bears. If they're not a playoff team, it seems like it really could just get blown up and start over in Chicago. That's the way we see it on the Bears. For the best coverage of the league, check us out at ProFootballWeekly.com.
It's never too early to start thinking about the NFL Draft, and Pro Football Weekly's new draft database has you covered. Check out updated player rankings for over 750 prospects and our exclusive PFW Stock Watch. Just go to the Draft tab at ProFootballWeekly.com.